Hello and welcome to Always Elite. Today is review day for AEW Dynamite. It is Bash at the Beach Part 1. Yes, I said Part 1 because Part 2 is going to take place next week on the Cruise of Jericho. Yes, it's going to happen on the boat. No, they're not going to broadcast live, but they are going to record it so that they can send it via satellite. So the time delay for the satellite would be too long from where they're going to be. They're going to be in the Bahamas, so. Now let's get right into this. Starts off with a tribute to Rocky Johnson, who had passed away earlier that day. Everybody should know that that's The Rock's father, Dwayne Johnson's father. So, our condolences from here at Always Elite, and I'm sure a lot of you have a lot to say about that. Let's get right into it now. First match right away after that tribute was the #1 contenders match for the Tag Team Championships. It was Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Santana and Ortiz versus Trent and Chuck Taylor versus Nick and Matt Jackson. 2 men start the match, which is weird for a 4-way match. Usually it's 4 men, 1 from each team. But I don't understand. I guess that's the rules that they set forth. I don't understand them. But who am I to judge? Interesting matchup. Kenny versus Matt, but Ortiz interferes. There was a spot where they had to face each other because they are on opposite teams, even though they are part of the Elite. So there was so much action in this match after the first minute, probably for the next 8 minutes. There was so much to go on. I could go on for an hour just on this match alone, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make you sit through all of that. It's one of the best matches I've seen in a very long time, especially a tag team match at that. Everyone has their spots, They all flip or dive to the outside. They all have them. A scrum happens in the middle of the ring, and a quadruple suplex. I don't even know who got suplexed there. It was just one big massive pile of people, and 4 people got suplexed at once. It was something to see. It was one hell of a way to start, like I said, because it was a great match. In the end, it was a buckshot layer V-trigger combo. Page and Omega earn a tag team championship match against SCU next week on the boat, which is quite interesting. I did see last year's Rock and Rager, at sea with Jericho, and it was quite interesting. It was kind of hard to watch because, the boat sways and all that, so the cameras were moving, but it was really good. Hopefully they can fix that problem this year. Hopefully they're anchored down somewhere when they do at least do the Dynamite thing, so that way they can get through it. Next, Cody comes down to respond to MJF's stipulations for them to face each other at Revolution. Cody goes through all the stipulations, one by one, as you can see on the screen here. It says after Wardlow and he face off, Wardlow won't want to carry MJF's bags. It should be the other way around, which I think is kind of interesting. It says MJF is just stalling because he knows the inevitable is going to happen, that Cody's going to kick the crap out of him. And he accepts all of MJF's stipulations. So he also says that he's going to give MJF his own scar as the camera zooms in on Cody's scar above his eye. Next up was the Nightmare Collective of Mel and Brandy versus Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. Shida had a vaulting knee on the outside, which she normally does in every one of her matches, but it's always a sight to see her do it. Mel was beating up Sheeta most of the match, even through that first break that they had in the match. I think it went 2 segments. It might have gone 3, even though it probably shouldn't have. Probably shouldn't have even gone 2 segments, but Statlander gets the hot tag and gives Brandy a Falcon Arrow, which didn't look pretty because Brandy is not a freaking wrestler. She can train and train all she wants. She is never going to be a wrestler. Statlander finishes with a package pile driver and a pin for the win. On Mel, obviously, not Brandy. Next, we had another vignette for the Dark Order. However, with this vignette, the announcer that usually does the narrating for the Dark Order segments, there was another voice in the background. That's actually the leader of the Dark Order. It's not Evil Uno, which leads to believe that's very interesting. So who could it be? Some speculate it's going to be Marty Scurll, but that's yet to be seen. And how awesome would that be if it was Marty? It could also be Brody Lee, who was recently released from WWE. It could be Matt Hardy, but I doubt it, because I think he's still under contract with WWE, so I highly doubt that. Could be anybody. My bet is on Marty, which would make more sense than you think, because he said he wasn't going to join the Elite, because he's been on NWA Power for the last, 2 weeks or so, maybe. But that doesn't prohibit him from going to AEW and starting his own faction, which makes more sense to me. But we'll have to see. Then we get Sammy Guevara versus Jon Moxley. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the whole night. Although there are a few others, but this one was entertaining right from the start. But the only thing I have a gripe about AEW, every time Sammy comes out or is out for his match, before his match or after his match, they always cut the commercial break. So he's got to pander to the crowd, and he uses his cue cards, which I think is a neat little thing. He uses cue cards to tell everybody what he's saying, because they always show the picture-in-picture with him. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's the only gripe I have right now in AEW. I mean, he's that good. Why not just let him do what he's got to do? Come out to a proper entrance, or, when he comes out, and then he, like the segment with Jon Moxley, like he had, what was it, last week? He came out, and, I don't get it. I just don't get it. But anyway, Moxley comes out in the car, in his new car that he stole from Chris Jericho. How ironic is that? Now, come to find out later, that's really Tony Khan, that's Tony Khan's father's car that he already owns. They just changed the plates. So Moxley's allowed to drive that car. I mean, it's got to be worth a few $100,000, easy. I mean, the Ford GT, amazing as it is with the suicide doors and everything. Moxley's beating up Sammy early, but Sammy, he just turns it around. He always does. He's always that, cocky, arrogant guy that starts out the match, gets his ass beat, and then turns it around. He always does that. Goes back and forth for a good chunk of the match. Through the top of the hour break, though, it's all Guevara. Jon Moxley counters a Sammy moonsault into a submission, and Sammy taps out to Moxley's submission, which is different from Moxley. I know he's used a few different submissions before, but this one was interesting. The lights go out, and then they come back on after the match. And the rest of the Inner Circle in the ring, and he just proceeded to beat the crap out of Jon Moxley. Then Jericho takes a spike off of his jacket, unscrews it from his jacket, and looked like stabbed Moxley in the eye. So through the next break, they showed the picture-in-picture, and they showed Moxley holding his eye, and the doctor in there, and they gave him a rag, and when they came back, he was walking away. Jericho, in a backstage segment after that, says it was all Moxley's fault. Now he's looking like a pirate. And he's not going to be able to face the winner of the match later for a shot at Jericho's title. Next up, we got the Butcher and the Blade and MJF versus DDP, QT Marshall, and Dustin Rhodes. Now, I can't express the average age of this group is like, it's old. Because QT doesn't look that young either. He looks in his late 30s. Easy. Dustin's in his mid 40s. DDP is, what is he, 60, 65? That's insanity, and he's wrestling. But he does his DDP yoga, so I guess he's in shape at least. Dustin is so good. No wonder his brother convinced him to keep wrestling after their match, months ago. I guess he told him he had more to offer, and Dustin agrees, and I think he's one of the best they got. As a veteran, other than Jericho, he's the best veteran they got. MJF only tags in when his opponents are down or beat up. Typical heel. Surprised he wasn't texting like he was last week. He was on Twitter last week when he was in the ring with DDP. I thought it was hilarious. DDP finally gets some of MJF. He gives him a diamond cutter. And then Dustin with a Canadian Destroyer to follow that. And then DDP does something I've never seen before, even at his age. He dives from the top to the outside as QT was in the ring. Yeah, there was a dive to the outside. QT was in the ring. The camera panned over it. It was really weird. MJF rolls him up for the pin, so he gets his win still over DDP. But for DDP to do a dive off the top rope at 65 is insane. Now it's time for the main event. It's Darby Allin versus Pac. The winner of this match will face Moxley next week for a shot at the #1 contendership for Jericho's title. Darby is so fast. He just flies around the ring. He shoulder tackled Pac twice, and it was lightning fast. The camera almost didn't catch it. Throughout the last break, Pac had the upper hand for the most part. Darby with the crucifix bomb to Pac, and then a coffin drop. It ends when Pac hits the black arrow and gets the win. Gets the pin for the win. Next week, it'll be Pac versus Moxley for the #1 contendership to the AEW Championship. Before they go off the air, though, John Moxley refuses medical help and gets out of the ambulance and storms down to the ring. He tells Pac that it doesn't matter. He'll be there next week, blind or not. That's all we have for this week for this episode of Dynamite. Join me again next week for another review from Bash at the Beach Part 2 from the Cruise of Jericho. Till then, always be elite.